This is Steve Zeltzer with KPFA WorkWeek Radio, and I'm with Erika Jacobsen White and Melissa Blain Johnson. And we're talking today about discrimination and about the issue of workers, women workers, getting pregnant and discrimination because of their pregnancy. And there was a case at Natera, which is a women's health company that tested women for pregnancy, and there were some incidents that took place at this company that raised serious questions about retaliation, discrimination because of pregnancy. So welcome both of you to our show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So why don't you, Erika, outline the case, and then maybe Melissa, you can talk about what happened to you. Do you want to do that?
Sure. So in a nutshell, this really is a classic case of discrimination and retaliation that I think a lot of pregnant women face. When Blain, announced her pregnancy, she saw a slow and steady deterioration of how she was treated in the workplace. I think there were a lot of subtleties to it, which she can speak to herself. But when things finally culminated in a demotion, she spoke up, and when she did, she was retaliated against and forced out of the company. She was bumped out. And I think that the reality is that this is happening to women in every sector, at every level of the workplace. And as we've seen the evisceration of the unions across the country, women have less and less protection against it.
And we're speaking with Erika Jacobsen White. Now, Blain, you were working at the company Natera. What exactly did it do, and what kind of work did you do?
Natera is a prenatal genetic testing company. They have a suite of reproductive products aimed at families who are looking to conceive. I actually worked in the marketing department and the communications division, and so all day long I'm helping to produce brochures of smiling pregnant women, new parents holding happy babies. So it was quite a surprise to me when I was treated as I was during my pregnancy.
And what happened? What was the first instance where you felt that something was going on that concerned you as far as discriminatory practices by the company?
The first thing that concerned me was, soon after I announced my pregnancy, I was told that I would no longer be hiring staff. I would no longer be managing staff. And I was in the middle of hiring someone at that time, and it was a hire I had worked hard to secure. I had to build the case that, I needed a team, that, we were going to have new product launches, and we needed to have the staff to support that. And all of a sudden, my direct supervisor was then screening the candidates, setting up interviews, and it became clear to me that that staff member would no longer, fall under my purview.
And did they explain why they took away some of your job duties?
I asked. And I even brought it up the chain. And when I asked, I was told that one of the reasons was that I was going to be going out on leave, and it would make the transition easier. But I wasn't due to go out on leave for months. For 4 months. I was not very pregnant at the time.
So basically, this is way before you were actually really pregnant, or
yeah.
your pregnancy was the latter stage.
There was no need to begin making plans for my, temporary leave of absence. I definitely could have managed an employee for the next 4 months during my pregnancy.
But they never made a statement saying that they wanted to change your work duties because you were pregnant.
No, it was, the reason they gave was that it would make the transition easier for when I went out on leave. And the reason I was going out on leave was because I was pregnant.
So they said they were going to help you for preparing for the leave. That was kind of their argument, I guess.
I think maybe they thought they were helping me, but they definitely thought that they were helping the company.
That's right.
And the new hire.
Now, also, you had some experience where they wanted your children to test products at other companies. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, that was surprising. So I was several months pregnant, probably 7 months pregnant, and I was asked, along with another pregnant employee, to take a competitor's genetic test, essentially so that they could get competitive data. They wanted to know what that test did that their test did not. And so they wanted to use my unborn son, as a market research tool.
So in other words, they had reassigned you or taken away your job duties, but then they gave you additional jobs, which was using your children, or you as a guinea pig for another by testing at another company.
That's a great way to put it. Yep.
So when you felt that you were being discriminated against, what did you do? What was the process you went through?
What's funny is I kept making excuses for the company. I don't think anybody wants to believe that bad things are happening to them, especially not at the hands of people they trust, at the people they respect. And so I kept making excuses, and I kept trying to find alternate explanations. I would speak up every now and then. Nothing would happen. And I kind of just figured I'd sort it out once I came back from maternity leave, At a certain point, I was tired of bringing it up. I didn't want to be a complainer. And then finally, it was just so clear to me. For example, when I was on maternity leave and I received an email saying that I was demoted, that I had to speak up. I mean, I couldn't. I could work with everything, but that was just so clear, so black and white, that I had to speak up.
So you were actually on maternity leave from the company, and they demoted you while you were on maternity leave.
That is correct. Not only did they demote me, but they sent me, they said if there's a restructure, you have a new role, and the job description they sent me was the job description I wrote for the person I was supposed to hire. And I couldn't believe it, but it was true.
And this company, Natera, how big are they, and how many people work for it?
It's I'd say a mid-sized company. It's a 800-person company. They have a fairly robust HR department. It's not a new startup.
And a lot of women use this company for testing and other things?
They do. It's actually one of the market leaders in it's called NIPT, non-invasive prenatal testing, in that space.
And the question is, since their marketing is to say that they're going to help women with reproductive issues, with having children and other things, why would they retaliate against a woman at the company?
That was one of the things that was so disturbing to me, because I expected, to have to navigate some of these issues, unfortunately, to the extent that all women do. Make sure you look committed to your work. Make sure they know that you're coming back. Don't leave too soon at the end of the day to pick up your kid from daycare. But I never imagined that a company that claims to care about women and families would so actively discriminate against their own pregnant employees.
And we're speaking with Melissa Blain Johnson. And Erika, you have something to add to what we're discussing right now?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think it's also really telling that a company that focuses on women's health doesn't have a single woman in their C-suite.
And what you're saying is that they, even though they're focusing on women's health, they don't have women in the top positions in the company or leadership positions?
Yeah.
And the issue of discrimination, I mean, it's supposed to be illegal in California, in the United States, to discriminate against women who become pregnant. Is this an example, an isolated case, or do you feel, Blain, that this is a common problem that women workers face in the workplace?
I didn't realize how common it was until, my friends and my colleagues, we all kind of began having children recently. I'm in my, mid-30s. And even in casual conversation, at baby gymnastics class, women, a new mom I met would say, yeah, my job was not the same when I came back. Or, yeah, I'm actually looking for a new job because I didn't like the way I was treated when I returned. I think this is very, very common, and many women deal with it to some extent.
And what about the government enforcement of investigating these companies and enforcing the law if this is a common problem of women who become pregnant being retaliated against for becoming pregnant? Is there any investigations or prosecutions or against these companies? Erika, what is the government doing about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think on a broad level, the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the DFEH, Department of Fair Employment and Housing in California, they're administrative agencies that are charged with investigating these complaints, and I think they do to some extent, but those agencies are also overwhelmed. I think you'll find that trending, these complaints are on the rise with those agencies. Oftentimes, though, as you know, I don't think the recent Supreme Court pick is going to be any help to this, but women are being forced now into arbitration. Their complaints can't come to light. Oftentimes, when they're forced into arbitration, they're forced into confidentiality. They can't band together as class. So it's actually quite difficult to enforce by both the government agencies that are charged with enforcement and also for private attorneys. It's very difficult to take these cases forward.
Do you think it should be illegal to have these arbitration agreements that basically would prevent you, Blain, from going public about these cases and prevent you from getting a private lawyer?
I do think that should be illegal. I think it's hard enough for women to come forward, and I think anything you do to further silence them and to prevent their stories from entering the public sphere, I think that just lets companies get away with it.
And also, you would not know about the systemic problems if it's affecting large numbers of women. If it's all kept secret and confidential, you would not know what kind of serious problem it was, it seems.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think that's why you're seeing a huge trend in arbitration from the Chamber of Commerce. They're really lobbying hard in favor of arbitration because the bottom line is that it helps corporations and it silences individuals.
And that was Erika Jacobsen White. She's an attorney for Melissa Blain Johnson. Now, Blain, what would your advice be to other women in the workplace who are going to have children, become pregnant? What should they do to protect themselves? And what do you think the lesson of your struggle has been to protect your right against being retaliated against for becoming pregnant by Natera Corporation?
I would say, it's unfortunate that women have to think about this when they become pregnant or when they're planning their families. But
it's already a lot of stress to have a child. And then to be worried about losing your job is additional stress.
It's a bad time to lose a job. Babies are expensive. My advice to them would be don't hide. I think I spent too long trying to pretend that it wasn't happening to me because I just didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to be the person who claimed, discrimination. I would advise them to be honest about their situations, use the avenues available to them through HR, and stand up, because that is how we make change.
And HR at Natera, were they aware of what was going on?
They were very aware. I have lost count of the number of emails I sent to them documenting. So much of this happened in emails with the accused. I forwarded those. I wrote summaries, and nothing was done. It did not protect me.
So the Human Resources Department in Natera knew in detail about what was going on as far as retaliation against you, and did they ever explain why they didn't take action, or they just ignored your complaints?
They did not explain why they took action. I don't really know why they would not protect me, or I don't know.
And Natera management, what are their explanations for what happened with your case? And what are they arguing, that they were justified in doing what they did against you and that that's the way it is?
No, we don't know what their justification is, and frankly, I don't think there is a justification.
So if people want to support you, Blain, I guess they could contact Natera and ask them why they discriminate. I mean, why don't you talk about how your concerns following a lawsuit, because there is the fear of being prevented from getting other jobs and being basically blacklisted. Were you concerned about that if you went public with what happened at Natera?
I was concerned about coming forward and making a lot of enemies who are very well connected in the pharma field. I'm still worried about that, but I think that's the heart of the matter. Those are the type of repercussions that silence women, that keep them from coming forward. And honestly, it was listening to so many parallel experiences of the women I knew. I knew how common this was. I knew it was bigger than my fears. And I had to come forward and speak about it.
So this Natera, you were saying earlier, they did not pay pregnancy pay while you were off work. I mean, combining your unemployment with compensation. I mean, it sounds like this is a very wealthy company. Why couldn't they cover you when you were off on pregnancy leave?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's not a small company. It's an 800-person company. They're one of the market leaders in the prenatal genetic testing space. And so many employees implored them to live their values and to offer paid leave, and they did not.
So I guess they were more interested in profit, making more profit, rather than paying what they should have paid, so that women who become pregnant could get compensated, wouldn't have to take a cut in income while they were off with their pregnancy.
They're certainly trying to cut corners with free market research data with their pregnant employees.
And who runs Natera? Who owns it? Is it one person, or is it a board? Are they drug company executives, or are they owned by another drug company? It sounds like we're talking about big pharma here.
It's a publicly traded company.
It's what?
Publicly traded.
It's publicly traded. Okay. So people can let them know about what they think about what's happening in your case, since they're publicly traded then.
Sure can.
Good. Okay, well, thanks for joining us on WorkWeek Radio, and we hope our listeners take note of this and start to stand up and organize for the right of women to have pregnancy, not be discriminated against, be compensated